What's good, people? It's about that time to randomly relate, reverse rants, no hate. So we talking about Floyd Mayweather, who was interviewed by Shannon Sharp. And, of course, he was asked about, does he really feel like he's the greatest of all time? You know, TBE. And I don't know why anybody would be shocked by Floyd's response. I mean, he's made this clear before. And also, I don't understand why people get in their feelings and feel like they need to debate or argue how somebody feels about themselves. I mean, what is he supposed to say? Do you expect him to say, oh, I'm good, but those guys are better than me? Or, I mean, what do you expect him to say? Sugar Ray Leonard, you know, I remember him being on that show with Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp, and he, you know, was saying they was talking about Floyd, saying he's the best ever, you know, he's the greatest. And, you know, and Sugar Ray said, hey, you know, he's supposed to. He said, I mean, even me at 62, you know, I feel like I can beat anyone, even Mike Tyson. That was Sugar Ray Leonard said, okay? Zab Judah a few years ago. I was after the Paulie Malignaggi loss, okay? And they asked Zab Judah in an interview, said, you know, why does Zab Judah still fight? And he said, because I know I'm still the best fighter in the world. Now, even if we don't agree with them, so what? So be it. You know, Zab Judah was on his way, he was making noise. You know, he was definitely climbing the ladder. And then, you know, when he got knocked out by Costa Zoo, he was never the same fighter after that. Never, ever was able to recapture what, you know, the things that he was doing, you know, before the loss. But regardless, you know, I like Zab Judah as a fighter, but I've never seen Zab Judah as the best fighter of any era. That you know, at no point did I consider him the best fighter, but I liked him as a fighter. But I don't expect him to feel like that just because I do. You know, so what do you expect Floyd to say? I mean, look, let's break things down. We can look at Floyd's career and people can say, oh, he fought Robert Guerrero because you don't like Guerrero as a fighter. But there's a lot of people that do like Guerrero as a fighter. Okay. We can look at anybody's career. Sugar Ray Leonard got booed out the building for fighting, you know, Roberto Duran in the third fight. Sugar Ray was 33. Duran was 38. Duran was fat, sloppy, lost his physique and everything. And Sugar Ray couldn't even get him out of there with the full distance. And they booed Sugar Ray out the building. You know, if you guys don't remember that or if you didn't see it, just type in the fight. The third fight, Sugar Ray versus Duran 3. Fast forward all the way to the end. They booed him out the building. Sugar Ray Leonard got, you know, criticized for fighting Donnie Lalonde because people wanted to see him fight a Michael Nunn, a James Toney, you know, Julian Jackson. You know, they wanted to see that, a Nigel Benn. They wanted to see, these guys were all in the come on the, they were there. They were on the come up. He fought Donnie Lalonde. You know, he fought an old, you know, washed up Duran. Yeah, you had a history with Duran, but that should have ended there. Duran was done. You know, he went on to keep fighting, and nobody cared about. Duran wanted to reach making 100 fights. He wanted to reach that, but nobody cared about what Duran was doing in the ring at that time. So, you know, because people respected him as a legend, they might have cheered for him and gave it up for him because, hey, he's past his prime, he's up in age, and he's still fighting. You know, but at the same time, it's like, no, nobody cared at that point. And, you know, he was irrelevant as far as being a top prospect. Years before that he was. So, you know, Muhammad Ali. I remember, you know, he was fighting guys, and Howard Cosell said Muhammad Ali is running what I call a bum of the month club. I don't know why such a terrific fighter like Ali is fighting these lesser fighters. And Ali basically was fighting these guys to keep active, to keep from just waiting because, you know, certain fights you want and you don't get them when you want them. So he was just keeping active, you know, but at the same time, you can't act like he didn't do it. And yeah, he fought a guy in Leon Spinks that only had 7 fights and he lost to him. Now, let's be honest. If Floyd Mayweather fought a guy with 7 fights and won, y'all would be criticizing him. Y'all criticized him for fighting against Conor McGregor. Now, this is not about defending Floyd Mayweather. And it's not about criticizing Ali or defending Ali. I'm looking at the logic. Okay? I like either fighter equally as the other. I don't like him any more than I like Ali and vice versa. But at the same time, it's like Floyd made $300 million and Conor made $100 million. If y'all don't understand that this was a business move, and if it wasn't considered a mega event, it would have never happened. You think if he was making his usual 32 million, he would have fought Conor for that shit? No. No need to. This was, okay, I'll come out of retirement for this. This is life-changing money. He already had life-changing money, but this is life-changing money. Okay? Who do you think, who do you really think would have turned that fight down? So all the criticizing is hypocritical. Okay? Did y'all criticize Ali when he fought Antonio Inoki? You remember the guy was kicking Ali in the legs and Ali had these big knots and swells all over his legs? Yeah, and Ali kept jumping up on the ropes, holding his legs up and running around, and the guy kept falling on his back. And I watched this thinking, what the fuck am I sitting here watching, man? I remember that years ago, like, what is this shit? Muhammad Ali let Gorilla Monsoon pick him up and spin him around on his back and dump him down on the mat. Floyd went in there and punched the Big Show in the nose and got chased out, all that. So they did similar things, right? And he didn't fight Antonio Inoki for $300 million. And if you had to compare the two, well, listen, it's just the whole point of one. It was a business move on both ends. If you watch the Ali Antonio Inoki fight, you'll understand why I'm sitting here chuckling right now. And if we seen the Conor McGregor Mayweather fight. And at least that was, he carried the guy to make him look like, whatever. He just carried him, didn't really put, he just carried. Y'all saw what happened, man. Okay. At the end of the day, there's no fighter, not one, who hasn't had criticism. There's no fighter that's exempt from criticism. They're all everybody. Okay. The thing is, people try to take fighters that's, from back in the day and try to, give them these superhuman elements like they weren't human. They could do things nobody else could do. And no, stop it. They're all humans. Guys are bigger, stronger, faster, and more skilled now. Stop that. The reality is there is an unwritten law, okay, of there's a politically correct answer for everything. Like, for example, it's blasphemy to say anybody's better than Michael Jordan in basketball. It's blasphemy to say anybody's better than Wayne Gretzky in hockey. It's blasphemy to say anybody's better than Tyson, Ali, or Sugar Ray Robinson. That's just the way it is. It's blasphemy to say anybody's a better rapper than Rakim or Eminem. It's blasphemy, to say anybody's a better martial artist than Bruce Lee. And the funny thing about that is, I've heard people say Bruce Lee could beat anybody. I've even heard people say he could beat Sugar Ray Leonard in a boxing match and that he beat Muhammad Ali. He beat Mike Tyson. And so I ask people, well, what is Bruce Lee's fighting record? And every time I ask them that question, they look stupid because they're like, what do you mean? What do you mean what I mean? I just asked you, what is his fighting record? You just said he could beat professional fighters, right? Okay, so what is his fighting record? Well, he didn't fight. He didn't have a fighter, right? Okay, so you're basing his ability off of movies and hearsay. Look, Michael Jai White said Bruce Lee couldn't beat him, and people lost their shit. When Michael Jai White apologized, he didn't apologize saying, "No, I can't beat Bruce Lee. I shouldn't have said that." He's apologizing for the fact that he said it. You think that in his mind, he still think that he don't think he could beat Bruce Lee? Now, here's a 132-pound man that y'all think has Super Saiyan powers for real. Here's a guy, 235, that's skilled as fuck. But y'all think that, and even for people that say Michael Jai White might beat him because he's bigger, but if they were to say, here you go with it, it's still all opinions. Whether you think Michael Jai White will lose or win, it's an opinion. But now when you start with the weight stipulations and all, but if he was smaller or if Bruce Lee was bigger or, okay, that would be like saying if Floyd Mayweather had Julian Jackson's punching power, he would have knocked everybody out he fought, guaranteed. How the fuck do we know that? Because with his skills, right? We could say with his skills, imagine that kind of power. He did not. It could be right, but is that even a fucking entity? Is that even a thing? No, it's not. Because he doesn't have Julian Jackson's power. He had with the power that he had. He did what he did. Or imagine saying with Julian Jackson's punching power, if he had Floyd Mayweather's boxing IQ, if he had those abilities, he would have beat everybody. Maybe, maybe not. But is that necessary to sit here and imagine? You know, it's like them action figures, right? You see those Marvel action figures? You take an arm from the Hulk, put it on, boom. Take Thor's legs, boom. You know, the other arm, give the other arm a Thanos arm, and then put Captain America's head. Then throw Iron Man's. You're building a character. That's what you're doing. Be realistic. We don't have to do all of that if this guy could do this. Remember when Andre Berto fought Floyd? Remember his father and the trainer was sitting back there saying, if Andre Berto had Marcos Maidana's tenacity, he'd beat Floyd easy. Oh, definitely, definitely. Well, if he had those things you're saying, he wouldn't be Andre Berto. As simple as that. So what's all the fantasy? Give this person this and that. Okay? I'm getting ready to leave in a minute and go to the store. If I say, damn, you know what? If I had superhuman speed and I could fly, I could get there a lot quicker. Guess what? I don't. So I got to drive my ass down there, don't I? Be realistic. That's all I'm saying. This is not about, I don't even believe in the greatest of all time. Okay? First off, I feel like everybody's accomplishments was a contribution to the sport of boxing. Okay? And no matter what it is, whether it's football, basketball, boxing, whatever it may be, my whole thing is this, right? If we're going to focus on the past, it's no wonder why nobody's caring about boxing nowadays. Because all we do is talk about how this generation sucks. These fighters couldn't beat those fighters back in the day. Those fighters would have beat these fighters. These fighters are shit fighters. Then why the fuck would anybody want to watch? Because this is what we're advertising and promoting every day on boxing channels. This is what people sit up on ESPN or different panels and sit up on different platforms and talk about who was the greatest of all time, who was this, who was that. This is the way I see it. All of them had their day. Right now, I'm focused on the Charlos, you know, the Josh Taylors of the world, you know, the Benavidez, the Ryan Garcia, the Tank Davises, the Devin Haney's. That's who I'm looking at. I'm looking at these young lions right now. I'm looking at people right now that's making history, that's out, because there's no need to compare. What's the comparison for? For fun? You know, for fun, I've done that even on my channel. I'll put a little list, put like 8 fighters, and then we'll do like a little tournament. Who you think is going to come down to? We'll like put this guy against him against him against him, and then it comes down to, we'll do a process of elimination. Then it comes down to the final 2. Who you think wins and why. That type of shit. Just for fun. And everybody has a different perspective of who they think would have won, how they think they would have won, and why they think they would have won. And that's all it's for. But as far as comparison, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't change anything. You know, now, if you really think Michael Jordan is the greatest of all time, you think Ali is the greatest of all time, you think Floyd Mayweather is the greatest of all time, okay, that's all good. I don't personally believe in any greatest of all time. But what I'm saying is when you actually just hold on, and most of the time that's what people do. Because like I said, this whole politically correct nonsense that they're telling themselves nobody's better than them. You can't be better than them. That's bottom line, no matter what you say. Even if they watch a fighter and they know inside, damn, I think this motherfucker better than Ray Robinson. They're not going to say that shit. You remember when Bob Arum, remember when Floyd was rocking with him? Remember when Bob Arum said, this guy Floyd is unbelievable. I haven't seen anything like it. He's better than Ali. He's better than Ray Leonard, better than Ray Robinson. Remember, that came out of Bob Arum's mouth, promoting his fighter, talking about up his fighter. Have you heard him say the same thing about anybody since? Have you heard him say one fighter in his stable right now is better than Sugar Ray Leonard or Ali or Ray Robinson? No. But it's funny how when they cut ties, oh, Floyd was no longer that guy anymore. You know, so understand the way people throw shade. Look, we know what Ali, you know, his fight, his stance, you know, for his rights, for civil rights, stand up for us black people is the way we were being lynched and robbed and bullied and the way we were being treated and killed and all these things that was going on. And you remember him telling the press, like, you know, the Viet Cong ain't never called me no nigga. They ain't never did nothing to me. You want me to go over there and kill people who ain't never did nothing to me? You want me to go over there and kill innocent women and children and men, you know, and they ain't never did nothing to me? I'm not even free right here in the country I'm come from. I'm the heavyweight champ of the world, and I can't. It's places on Miami Beach I can't even go. But Ali was a sharp dude. He was a great poet. He was a smart, intelligent guy. And Ali understood what was going on. And then you have cause and effect. So Ali seeing the way we being treated, and it had him like, damn, all y'all the same. All of y'all, every time somebody do anything happen to black people, y'all stand around. Nobody cares. The world is solid. Nobody cares about what happens with us, but then we got to stand up for ourselves because nobody else do. And everything that was going on, understand, all Ali was doing was coming to the ring to fight and win fights. You know, there was a wrestler named Gorgeous George back in the day, and Ali liked the way he would come to the ring with the flashy robes and talking trash and all that, and that's pretty much what Ali did. But he wasn't so much hated for that. He was hated for his skin color. He was hated for being a black man. We all know that. But that has nothing to do with boxing. We're talking about the in-ring, the boxing. What does any of that have to do? We're not talking about what he did outside the ring. We're not talking about the stand he took. We're not talking about any of that. We don't talk about that with any other fighter. Jack Johnson dealt with a lot of bullshit too. Or who didn't? You don't think Ray Robinson had oppression? You don't think Joe Louis went through, but we only talk about what Ali's story is different. So we're only going to get that when we talk about Ali's. But what is so if you comparing Ali to Tyson, do we bring that up then? No. If you compare Muhammad Ali to Lennox Lewis, Evander Holyfield, do we bring that up then? No. It's only when Floyd Mayweather is compared to Ali, we start bringing up all this other stuff. That has nothing to do with in the ring. That's what the focus should be on. So this is not about defending Floyd Mayweather, and it's not about defending Muhammad Ali. It's about looking at the logic. That's what and for any fighter, look, for any fighter who's had bad days in the ring, right? Like when Howard Cosell said Ali was running the Bum of the Month Club, understand, like the guy that Ali fought as well, Ali fought like 5 or 6 fighters. They were shit fighters, and Ali knows they were shit fighters. Like I said, he did it to stay active. Ali fought a dude that was 16, had 16 fights after he fought Ken Norton in the third fight. And it went the distance. I forget the guy's name. They call him No Neck. Little short guy. He was like 205 pounds. Little short. I think he was Latino. Short dude, man. And he was imitating Ali at one point. If I start dancing around, dropping his hands, and the guy was a rookie. But at the same time, what I'm saying. Imagine. Like I said, imagine Floyd Mayweather fighting a guy with seven fights. Win, lose, or draw. You guys would have criticized him. Everybody would have criticized him. They know it. Like I said, they criticize him for fighting Conor, but they don't criticize Ali for fighting Antonio Inoki. Now that's just facts right there. You don't even hear people talking about Ali, that shit he did with Antonio Inoki. Me personally, I don't care either way what happened. They do what they do. They're grown men. I'm not saying what these guys should or shouldn't do. I'm not that kind of person. That's their decisions to do what they did. But at the same time, Floyd fought all the way up until he was 38 years old. Retired, came back at 40, made that bag against Conor, went back out, came back and retired, in an exhibition, got that $9 million, whatever it was, fighting that guy Tension or whatever his name is, and basically it's an exhibition. The man's coming out to do the same thing again and get another bag. That's all it is. That's all it is. So to try to add up strikes and try to make a guy look bad for feeding his family, like I would never, when Ali did what he did with Gorilla Monsoon in the WWE ring, I know that was for money. When he did what he did with Antonio Inoki, I know that was for money. It's all for money. Even like Manny Pacquiao, who is he supposed to be fighting now? Conor McGregor. And what did he say? He's using part of that money for relief, in the Philippines. That's all good. Same way, he can fight somebody like Keith Thurman in a rematch. He can fight Sean Porter. There's other people that he can fight. You understand? There's other people that he can fight. And he's still going to make money and can send money back for relief. I'm just saying, let's be realistic, right? Let's be realistic. And the thing is, if Manny Pacquiao, let's say, I don't know how he feels physically, but let's say there's things because he's older now that he notices different. I don't know. But at the same time, now, I don't know if y'all saw this, but they're saying he's supposed to be fighting Mikey Garcia. Okay. Do y'all really want to see Mikey Garcia versus Manny Pacquiao? The same day that I saw that he was supposed to be fighting Conor, and then today, this morning, that Pacquiao supposedly made it certified that he's fighting Conor. Does anybody really want to see Manny Pacquiao versus Mikey Garcia? Ain't this the same Mikey Garcia who people said, oh, Errol Spence was too big? Mikey's, it's because he came up in weight. Well, it looks like he's standing at 147. So, again, now let's be realistic. Would you want to see Floyd Mayweather come back and fight Mikey Garcia? No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. I know I wouldn't. When he fought Conor McGregor, I didn't care about that goddamn fight. I just knew what it was about. That's all. But like I said, I'm not going to tell anybody that they shouldn't feed their family. You go do what you have to do. When you talk about anybody's past, let's be realistic, okay? Ali had, and I don't like getting in people's personal business. I'm saying this to make a point to you guys about the way how people do things. When you talk about Ali being an activist and still, yes, he did that. Ali had issues within his marriage. Okay, he got married more than one time. You know what I'm saying? He got kids by different, women. That's all his personal business. Okay, Manny Pacquiao was committing adultery on Jinky. Okay, Ray Robinson, you saw his documentary, read books on him in the past. He was known for being a woman, beating up on his wife. But nobody talks about that shit. Nobody talks about that. But everybody talks about, Floyd Mayweather, he had domestic violence with his baby's mother. Why is it so important that y'all talk about, you see what I'm saying? Talk about one person's personal life, but you don't mention none of this about the other people. They're all human, man. And this is the first and only time you ever heard me mention these things. And I'm mentioning that to make a point. I'm not saying he detailing, and then he did this and then he did that. The whole point is, why does all that matter? Whenever y'all talk about Floyd's career, y'all bring up all of what y'all see as negative. Even shit that he might have said or did 10, 15 years ago. Not that he did anything to hurt anybody, but just shit that y'all don't like about him. But then Floyd has just been doing his thing. But Floyd knows that people don't like him. Him and Ali had one thing in common. They both said 100% of the people come to see me, 99% come to see me get beat. Let's not make it like people loved Ali right from the beginning. No, Ali, just like all of us, faced a lot of hate and racism. We all went through it. But him, Jack Johnson went through all these guys. Reuben Hurricane Carter. There's many people who have stories. But what does that story have to do with what they produce in the ring? And that's all we should be focusing on. That's what we're talking about. So when we talk about greatest of all time, all these little tags that come in, that's what I mean about politically correct answers. If it wasn't a politically correct answer, nobody would be talking about what Ali did outside the ring. What Jack Johnson did outside the ring. Nobody would be talking about that. We're talking about what is the purpose of comparing two fighters and saying, but you got to understand, what Ali went through. Okay, what the fuck does that have to do with what he did in the ring? We're not talking with the effect that it would have. Okay, well, do you know what may have affected Floyd Mayweather? Do we not live in a time right now? Look at the shit that we see going on right now. Where every time you turn around, you got unarmed black men getting shot and killed. You got people clearly on their knees going, what did I do, officer? I'm on my knees. I'm calling. No, the dogs are biting them up and with all this kind of shit. We know. Look at the George Floyd situation. Look at everything that's going on. We can go back to Rodney King. We can go, you act like we're living in a perfect, wonderful time right now. No. You don't think Floyd Mayweather dealt with racism too? And even to say, but it was on a different level. Don't listen. That's just petty. And that's just nitpicking for shit. And again, none of that has nothing to do with what's in the ring. Okay? I made a video. Again, when I was talking about, I was making a comparison. I said, look at some of Mike Tyson's opponents. Peter McNeely. Buster Matthews Jr. Francois Bolter. Orlin Norris. Would you not rather saw him fight somebody like David Tua or Hasim Rahman or Michael Mora or Riddick Bowe or even a George Foreman? Would you not rather have seen him fight somebody like that? Now, my thing is, like I said, I can't tell you why he took those fights over the other fights, but the point is he did. He fought Andrew Galata. He fought some of the same people that some of the other guys fought. The whole point is they all had nobody. Who the fuck wanted to see that? If anything, you wanted to see how fast Mike was going to destroy those guys. You didn't want to see. It wasn't like that's going to be a great fight. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. At 35 years old, Floyd was fighting Canelo Alvarez, Victor Ortiz, winning titles. That guy that Ali fought, Ali was 35. Stop making it seem like 35 back then is different from 35 now. 35 is 30 fucking 5. So all I'm saying is, look at who's available, right? At that time in the fighter's career, and then the fights didn't happen, right? Okay, do that on both sides, not just one. Like I said, Sugar Ray got booed out the building for fighting, Roberto Duran in that third fight. And like I said, he was fat, out of shape. You could, lost his physique and everything. He was, 38. He was slow. You know what I mean? He was just a completely different fighter, and Ray couldn't get him out of there. And they booed Ray up out that building, man. And he fought Donnie Lalonde. He cherry-picked Terry Norris, and it backfired. Because Terry was a bad dude, but Terry just, he was... Sometimes he showed up. Sometimes he showed up and he lose focus. And they was thinking that he probably at some point, Ray felt comfortable. Ray said on the way to the ring he didn't feel right. Because he knew at that point, that was the nerves setting in. Damn, I bit off more than I can chew, man. Terry wasn't no slouch, don't get me wrong. But that's my point. When he stepped up, because who the fuck wanted this? Who the fuck heard he was fighting Donnie Lalonde and went, oh yeah, that's going to be the shit. Nobody cared about him fighting Donnie Lalonde. Nobody cared about that. Nobody wanted to see him fight Duran in the third fight. And like I said, when you had the Julian Jacksons, the Mike McCallums, the Michael Nunns, the James Tonys, and those guys were out there, and he didn't fight those guys. But he did fight Terry. And he retired after that ass whooping. And he was only 34. He was only 34. I've heard people say Floyd Mayweather retired too early. How the fuck did he... Look, first off, who is anybody to tell somebody they shouldn't retire? How long they should fight? How am I going to tell someone... Floyd was 38. Nobody never says Marciano retired too early. He was only 32. Andre Ward retired at 34. 33, 34. Okay? Ray Leonard retired at 34. He came back at 40 and fought Camacho. And Camacho, at that point, wasn't even the same either. Camacho was washed up, but he was still better than Ray was at that point. And we know how that fight went. So technically, you couldn't even compare any of those fighters that we talking about. Ray Robinson included at 38 years old, 37 years old. Those guys, we know Ray Robinson. He retired for a while and tried to go into acting, doing plays on, like Broadway plays and stuff like that. And he came back. And people always say, oh, the guy wasn't the same when he came back. The whole thing with Floyd is Floyd always come back and look sharp. And then when it sets in and you start to make the comparison, it's hypocritical, man, the way people do things and say things. I'll give you an example of something, right? Now, Floyd's argument is he accomplished more than all of them. And they say, oh, being 50-0 doesn't mean everything. How come being 49-0 meant everything at one point then? Because when Marciano retired undefeated, and Marciano was not the only undefeated fighter. The other fighters went unacknowledged because they felt like those guys were undefeated, but they didn't fight anybody. That was noteworthy. Okay, so that's false. Marciano wasn't the only undefeated fighter. But what ended up happening, now look at the hypocrisy. He says he accomplished more than them and he's 50-0. Listen, being undefeated doesn't mean everything. Okay, so wait. You're taking an accomplishment away. That's what you're doing. You're denying that it means everything. Listen. It's an accomplishment, but it doesn't mean everything. So, okay, what would make it not greater? He beat more world champions than Ray Robinson, than Ali, than Roy Jones, then Ray Leonard, then everybody, then Pacquiao, then everybody. So listen, now that doesn't matter, right? Even though it's an accomplishment. So staying undefeated is basically not something every fighter wants. What fucking fighter do you think come into boxing going, well, you know, I want to lose eventually one day. I'm looking forward to that loss. No, you just lose. So hold up. When you compare Pacquiao and Mayweather, you say, for people that say that Pacquiao was greater, they go on that Max Kellerman bullshit. Oh, because he won more world titles and more weight classes. Okay, they fought the same people, and there's people that both of them didn't fight. Then there's people that Floyd fought that Pacquiao didn't fight. There's people that Pacquiao fought that Floyd didn't fight. Okay, so when you break it down, wait, so his accomplishments is greater than Floyd's because he won more titles and more weight classes, but he's not undefeated. So being undefeated is not an accomplishment. Not only that, Floyd beat Pacquiao. But you still say that you think he's greater because of, okay, so how is it that him being undefeated doesn't matter? And he beat a guy that now has 9 losses on his record. You understand it? 6 losses or whatever, but what I'm saying is when you start looking at that and you saying, well, this guy beat this guy and this guy beat that guy. Look, you know how we talk about styles make fights. Here's one thing that's for certain: Floyd always finds a way to win. Now, anybody Muhammad Ali fight, I'm always rocking with Ali. Listen to me. I agree with Floyd. The first fight, we know Ali lost with Norton. Got his jaw broken. All we know he lost that fight. I don't agree with Floyd that Ali lost the second fight. No. That's I gotta call bullshit on that. In my opinion, I saw that fight. Ali won that fucking second fight. Third fight, Norton won. And I've been saying this shit for years. Norton won that fight. There's fights that people think Floyd lost. You understand what I'm saying? And when the time goes past and you sweep everything else out and then you just focus on the records and all that, see, people overlook the criticism and all that shit that was going on then. So then when you do, you know, these little video packages and all that, they make it look like these guys were invincible. Like they were just, oh, you back then with those fighters, it was superhuman. Burt Sugar used to do that. Oh, this guy was unbelievable. I mean, you couldn't hurt the guy. Then all of a sudden you see fights and the guy gets hurt and knocked the fuck out, but yet you couldn't hurt him. So they always do that kind of shit. So all I'm saying as far as the comparisons and you're talking about in-ring, all that what you did outside the ring doesn't mean shit. It has nothing to do with nothing. You know, they said Sugar Ray Leonard was bullheaded. He was arrogant, that he was all about himself. He put boxing over his family, all that shit that they say. So what I'm saying, if you're going to sit there and put a bubble together and say, well, we're going to talk about everything, what the fuck is the comparison about somebody's personal life and their stance in life that they took? And what does that have to do with what you do from bell to bell? That's all we're talking about. Now, whether you think Mayweather's better, whether you think Ali is better, I don't give a shit. I don't care about who anybody thinks is better. That's not even what the focus is. The focus is the logic and what Floyd was saying to the question he was being asked. And at the end of the day, even like with Roy Jones and Ali, he said they were the same. I agree with him, what he was saying. That because one, they were athletic, they used their legs, but that's just how they fought. It worked for them. So I can't take that away from them. But in the long run, no, they wasn't the same. The difference with Ali and with Roy Jones, when they could no longer move the same, was, you know, Ali was still able to take a punch. And Ali ain't never been knocked out. And Ali realized, he knew like he could fight on the inside or the outside. And he knew that he could. Now, of course, there's going to be certain opponents that you're going to have to be able to switch up with. So when it was somebody that could bring pressure to him and put that heat on him, yeah, he tried to retreat a little more, but Ali would bang with you. Roy couldn't. But I understand what he was saying. Floyd was the point he was saying in that. And the thing with Floyd is Floyd had fundamentals that Floyd was on a whole other fucking stratosphere, man. Y'all can talk all the shit y'all want like he couldn't fight, but that's bullshit. Floyd could fucking fight. And as his body starts breaking down, and the thing is, Floyd will tell you that shit, man. My body's breaking down. I'm getting older, man. My hands are getting brittle. And he's telling you this shit. And then go in the fucking ring and still win anyway. But then, you know, when people overlook those things and try to make it seem as, you know, it's something different from what we actually, you know, hear and see, then, you know, it gets to the point where this shit is silly and it's like, what are we talking about? Because right now, we should be focusing, honestly, on the fighters that's on the come up right now. Like I said, man, you think Royce Gracie, everybody thought he was unbeatable. He came back, fought Matt Hughes and got destroyed. Now, if Dana White is sitting there trying to push the narrative that, oh, the Royce Gracies and Dan Sevens and Ken Shamrocks, nobody could beat those guys, why the fuck would anybody care about watching the UFC then? No, you want to see it develop and grow. Floyd, out of his own mouth, said he's trying to find the next Floyd Mayweather to push this guy to break my records and be better than I was. Everything changes. It's like you listening to music right now going, man, these motherfucking rappers ain't shit. I grew up listening to Rakim and Big Daddy Kane and G-Rap, right? And guess what? Those times are long gone. It's not that time anymore. It's a different day. So either you don't listen to the shit or you do. But why would I sit here, turn on the radio just so I can bitch about what I'm listening to? You can go buy their old CDs or download their music or whatever. You can do that. It's like people get stuck in these little time zones, man. So if I'm going to sit here and talk about how great the past was, but the future ain't shit, the present ain't shit, well, right, this is what I'm advertising to people. And why would anybody give a fuck about boxing? Even when people, oh, what you think is better, boxing or MMA? I don't compare the two. They're two different sports. And I like them for the same and different reasons. I like bare knuckle brawling. I like kickboxing. I like Olympic style wrestling. I watch fucking sumo wrestling. I just like combat sports, period. I participate in this shit. So at the end of the day, it's like, yo, do we want to move forward or do we want to stay stuck in a certain time frame, you know, a time zone, and marvel about what the past was instead of focusing on right now? And for anybody that has that bow down mentality, let me make y'all look at something in a different way. Imagine your woman saying, just making a comment, I need somebody that can just give me something strong all night long. Would you go to your wife and say, hey, well, babe, you know, I don't think I'm the best at making love. And, you know, there's probably plenty of guys that can do a better job than me, but I try my best. Would you say some punk ass shit like that? Or would you drop them fucking pants, put her up against the wall and rock her fucking world and remind her, let her know, motherfucker, no, this is all you need right here? Or would you be bowing down to somebody else? So why in the fuck would Floyd say anybody's better than him? Why would Sugar Ray say somebody's better than him? Why would Pacquiao or Evander Holyfield or whoever say somebody's better than him? Even Evander, he beat Mike's ass twice and beat better quality opponents than Mike Tyson. And people still said, oh, Mike was better. Okay, that's your opinion. Do you expect Evander Holyfield to feel the same way? It's always somebody that's, oh, you can't say that about that guy. I'm like, I say what I want to say, man, but I say what I feel is true and logical, not with this, with that right there. That's what I think. I don't make decisions based on because I like that person. No, you're going to be biased towards your family, people you love, you know, and I don't mean biased to the point where you're harming them by making them think they're better than they are, but I mean, like, you always tell your kids you're the best kids in the world. You're not going to sit there and say, y'all all right, but I think such and such kids are more well-behaved than y'all. No. Everybody going to say they got the best mom in the world. Well, not everybody. Some people don't, you know, but you know what I'm saying. Those who have a good relationship with their parents, you're always going to say, I got the best dad in the world. I got the best wife in the world. I got the best husband. That's how it goes. Imagine if your wife told you that, well, honey, I do love you, but, you know, my ex, Frank, he used to fuck the shit out of me. He do a better job than you. I mean, I love you, and it's not like I'm going to go back with him, but I'm just saying, I wish you could fuck me the way he did. How would y'all feel? Yeah, we getting raw and uncut on this shit. I just want y'all to get, how would y'all feel? So why would you expect Floyd to say anything different, or any fighter? Anyway, never fall in love with lies, and remember, the truth brings hate out of people.